Hey EHG, welcome back. So in the patch notes for 103, we have a bunch of bug fixes for Thonic Fissure, and they specifically affect how Spine of Malatros works now that it functions with the more multipliers in the node. So in Thonic Fissure, which is a good thing, and it's playable, it scales. You can technically play this right now, but there's one interaction that's not in these patch notes because it hasn't been fixed yet, and when it gets fixed, God, I hope it's a bug. I really hope it's a bug. When it gets fixed, when it gets changed, there will be a new build that sounds awesome. And I'm literally so excited about the prospect of being able to play this build in the future that I want to make a video about it, talking about it right now. One of the things that I like most in last Epoch is having alternate scaling for the kinds of things that I build in my gear. So like I build blind chance, but in my build, it becomes crit vulnerability chance. Or I build shock chance, but in my build, it becomes chance to apply frostbite on hit. Or I build poison percent increased damage, and it becomes flat critical strike chance. And those kinds of alternate scalings are so cool to me, because what that means is when you look at an item on the ground, you have to evaluate it based on your knowledge of all these different things in the game and what those modifiers could be. For example, when you see a staff on the ground that has maybe like elemental damage over time and crit multi, you think to yourself, well, an Ellie dot build doesn't really build a crit multi. I guess this item's useless, or I guess I have to removal or chaos something in order to make this item good. But in reality, there's actually builds out there that could make use of both elemental damage over time and crit multi. You just need to have the knowledge or the experience of having played those builds to know where those combination modifiers are good. It makes the gearing experience awesome, and I love that, and I want more of it. So back to this build here. Flame whips got changed. They scale, sometimes a little bit. There's an interaction that does not currently work, but oh my god, I wish it worked. So we were playing around with this a little bit on twitch.tv/ParryThePig. By the way, we're currently live. And we were talking about all the different ways that you could use Spine of Malatros in order to scale damage up. So there's two important things that matter here. It says instead of spirits releasing, we're going to have flame whips instead. The flame whips scale with the Thonic Fissure skill tree, but holding down Alt, you'll see they do not scale with anything that affects spirits, and they do not scale with anything that affects torment. So you look at the Thonic Fissure skill tree, and you see a lot of things that affect spirits, and you see a lot of things that affect torment. So you ask yourself, how am I actually going to use this thing, if not for the two most prevalent ways of scaling Thonic Fissure? Well, it scales with generic more multipliers, so things like this. The fissure deals more direct damage, so this direct damage should also apply to this, because it says that the skill tree applies to this thing from all sources. So we can extend the duration with chaos bolts, for example, and we make that more multiplier ramp up even more when it extends the duration. But the interaction that I want, that is not currently in the game, was highlighted to me based on this node here, because me being a gamer, I lack reading literacy. Let's hit Alt, which we should have done in the first case. It says this hit component can be converted to physical with the Blood Gulch node, which is the bleed node, or it can be converted to necrotic with Valley of Defilement. So for those of you who don't know, there is 0 hit-based poison in the game. Actually, I technically think there's a monster out there that does hit-based poison damage, but I don't actually. Just don't even. Okay, there is no hit-based poison damage in the game. So the rationale is like, well, if you convert to poison damage, you can't have poison hit damage, so they're going to convert to necrotic instead with the Valley of Defilement node. So you take this, and you take this, and all of a sudden your flame whips should be necrotic. They should be green. They should be necrotic. Currently they are not, which is criminal. So when this gets bug fixed, what you'll do is you'll take this node, which says Thonic Fissure deals more necrotic damage per crit multi. And then you have like necrotic damage, your hit is dealing necrotic damage, you're scaling crit multi because of course you're scaling crit multi because you're a crit build, and then your crit multi is also giving you more damage based off of this node down here, which just, oh, it sounds so good. And the question is, okay, so you're using a two-handed sword. How do you get flat critical strike chance on a two-handed sword? Or sorry, if you're using a two-handed sword, because you don't get to use an offhand catalyst, which gives you that nice, juicy +6 critical strike chance. And you could try to do something cute. You could use a Prismatic Gaze helmet, which gives you +4. You could use a Logi's Hunger, which gives you +3 for a fire skill. And then you'd have 5 +4 is 9, +3 is 12. Then you build a whole bunch of % increased chance. But instead, we have these nodes. So these nodes here, I'm going to move my face real quick. These nodes here, Forbidden Chasm, it says Acid Skin. And this is not scalable, but it's 20% chance for the enemy to receive a crit. This is basically crit vulnerability from like a rogue, which means like in order to crit cap, so to speak, instead of building up to 100, you build up to 80. And this node is awesome. It gives you another source of like unscalable crit chance. It cannot be affected by other critical strike chance modifiers, but it's based on % increased poison damage. So what you'll do with this character, and why I think it's so cool, speaking of like alternate scaling for your stuff, you're going to be a hit, crit, necrotic build that builds necrotic resistance to get crit multi. You're going to build crit multi because it gives you crit multi and also because it gives you more damage here. And you're going to build % increased poison damage in order to give you flat critical strike chance, which means on your Spine of Malatros, you're looking for tier 7 % increased poison damage to LP onto your two-handed sword for your crit build. And that gets me so goddamn excited that we need to talk about this right now. I will not wait for the patch notes. I will talk about this immediately. God, I hope it's good, because as soon as that interaction becomes playable between Pyrochasm and Valley of Defilement, making the whips green and dealing necrotic damage and scaling appropriately off of the Grimtide node, it just sounds so good. All right, if this gets fixed in the future, click on this video and let me know how it is. If this doesn't get fixed in the future, go to your local EHG representative and let them know exactly how you feel about this. We're gonna go play some video games. We'll see you next time.